Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel where we cut through the political fog to get to the heart of what really matters in Washington and beyond. Today we're diving into one of those moments that reminds us just how fragile the machinery of government can be. A razor-edge vote in the House of Representatives that has slammed the door shut on a potential government shutdown, at least for the next 43 days. But as the dust settles and the federal workers breathe a sigh of relief, it's worth pausing to ask whether this is truly a victory or merely a band-aid on a gaping wound, especially with the bombshell that October's employment figures might now vanish into the bureaucratic ether. Let's unpack this step by step, because there's so much riding on it, from the everyday lives of millions to the jittery nerves of global markets. Picture the scene, if you can. It's late into the evening in the nation's capital, the air thick with tension as lawmakers from both sides of the aisle huddle in smoke-free rooms, hashing out the final details of this stopgap bill. For weeks, the threat of a shutdown had loomed like a storm cloud, ever since funding disagreements spiraled out of control, with Democrats pushing for protections on social programs and Republicans digging in on spending cuts and border security measures. The stakes couldn't have been higher. A full shutdown would have furloughed hundreds of thousands of federal employees, shuttered national parks, halted food inspections, and frozen a slew of vital services. We've seen this movie before, back in 2018 and 2019, when partial shutdowns dragged on for weeks, costing the economy billions and fraying the public trust in governance. But this time around, with inflation still biting and the post-pandemic recovery feeling more like a tightrope walk than a steady climb, the pressure was immense. And then it happened. The House voted through this continuing resolution, a temporary funding measure that extends government operations through to mid-December, giving everyone a 43-day window to negotiate a more permanent solution. It wasn't pretty. The bill scraped through on a narrow margin, with some conservatives grumbling about it not going far enough on fiscal restraint, while progressives decried the lack of robust investments in healthcare and climate initiatives. Yet in the end, pragmatism won out, or at least the fear of electoral backlash did, because nothing unites a divided Congress quite like the specter of voters blaming them for closed borders and delayed tax refunds. President, whoever holds the Oval Office at this juncture, signed it into law almost immediately, praising the bipartisan spirit, though let's be honest, that praise feels a tad hollow when you consider how close we came to the brink once again. Now here's where things get really intriguing and frankly a bit worrying: the ripple effects on the economy, particularly with those October employment figures hanging in the balance. You see, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which crunches these numbers, relies heavily on federal workers across various agencies to collect and verify the data. During a shutdown, those employees are sidelined, meaning surveys go unanswered and reports get delayed. In past shutdowns, we've seen releases pushed back by weeks, turning what should be a monthly economic pulse check into a game of wait and see. For October, that could mean we won't get the official unemployment rate, job growth figures, or wage trends until well into November, perhaps even December. And in a world where the Federal Reserve is laser-focused on labor market signals to guide interest rate decisions, this blackout isn't just inconvenient, it's a potential powder keg. Think about the investors right now. They're glued to their screens, parsing every whisper of economic data to decide whether to buy, sell, or hold. A delayed jobs report creates uncertainty, which, as we all know, is the market's least favorite bedfellow. We could see volatility spiking, with stock indices dipping as traders brace for bad news, or conversely rallying on hopes that the hidden data might surprise to the upside. But beyond the trading floors, this matters for you and me, the average punter trying to make ends meet. Strong employment numbers could signal more hiring and wage growth, easing the squeeze from rising costs, whereas weak ones might hint at a slowdown, prompting the Fed to hold rates higher for longer, which in turn keeps mortgage payments and loan interest stubbornly elevated. It's all interconnected, and this shutdown flirtation has just thrown a wrench into the works, reminding us that politics doesn't happen in a vacuum. It bleeds directly into our wallets and livelihoods. Stepping back for a moment, let's talk about the bigger picture. Because this isn't an isolated incident, it's symptomatic of a deeper malaise in American governance. The U.S. operates under a system designed by the founders to foster debate and deliberation. But in the hyperpartisan era of today, that deliberation too often devolves into deadlock. We've racked up trillion-dollar deficits year after year, with neither party willing to tackle the elephants in the room, like entitlement reform or tax code overhauls. This stopgap bill, while it averts immediate disaster, does nothing to address the root causes. It simply postpones the reckoning. In 43 days, we'll be right back here, staring down another deadline, unless cooler heads prevail and forge a comprehensive budget deal. But given the track record, optimism feels like a luxury we can't quite afford. Of course, there are glimmers of hope amid the gloom. The fact that the bill passed at all speaks to a baseline level of functionality in Congress. Bipartisan negotiations behind closed doors managed to thread the needle, including some modest wins, like increased funding for disaster relief in hurricane-hit states and tweaks to veterans' benefits. It's not the grand bargain we need, but it's a start, and perhaps a catalyst for more serious talks. Moreover, international observers are watching closely. A stable U.S. government is the bedrock of global finance, and any prolonged instability could spook allies from Europe to Asia, eroding confidence in the dollar's dominance. So in that sense, this 43-day truce isn't just domestic housekeeping, it's a signal to the world that America can still get its act together when push comes to shove. As we wrap this up, I can't help but feel a mix of relief and unease. The shutdown is over for now, the lights stay on, and most federal services chug along uninterrupted. Yet the shadow of those unreleased employment figures looms large, a reminder that even averted crises leave scars. Will markets hold steady, or will the uncertainty unleash a wave of sell-offs? Can lawmakers use this breathing room to craft something enduring? Or will we tumble back into the abyss come December? Only time will tell. But one thing's certain, in the grand theater of Washington drama, this like this keeps us all on our toes. If you've got thoughts on how this plays out or what you'd like to see in a real budget fix, drop them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update on the stories shaping our world. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, in politics, as in life, timing is everything. Cheers.